We saw Donald Trump enter the arena as the crowd cheered and jeered Senator Ted Cruz, who did not offer an endorsement for Donald Trump tonight. As we were watching that video, somebody special joined me. Brett Baer, he's the anchor of Special Report. You may be familiar. He joins us now for our special coverage as we go into the 10 o'clock hour. Great to see you, Brett.
Good evening. I tell you what, this was something that I don't think people expected in this hall. The fact that Donald Trump walked out before Ted Cruz finished his speech,
right.
It was a moment that they finally knew this is the end, and he's not endorsing.
Right.
Let's bring in our panel. Britt Hume, Chris Wallace, and Tucker Carlson. Britt, your thoughts on that moment?
Well, he certainly didn't do what Ronald Reagan did in 1976, which is deliver a rather gracious endorsement of and make a speech in support of Gerald Ford, who was, after all, the party's nominee. Cruz has chosen a different path. A lot will depend in the end on what happens to Donald Trump and whether people in some way hold Cruz and others like him who refuse to get on board responsible for his defeat. Because remember, Ted Cruz appeals or tries to the same constituency as Donald Trump. Will they forgive him?
Chris Wallace, Ted Cruz said, stand and speak, vote your conscience. Vote for candidates up and down the ticket who you trust to defend freedom and be faithful to the Constitution.
Well, I looked at Ronald Reagan's speech tonight. This is a lot of talk. Ronald Reagan, after he lost to Gerald Ford in 1976, he got onto the stage after he'd lost at the Republican convention, arm in arm with Gerald Ford, in effect endorsed him and said there was no substitute for victory. It was, in effect, a pep talk to all Republicans to get together and to win in November. We didn't hear that. We only heard Donald Trump's name once, as you say, and it was noticeable. Vote your conscience. Vote up and down for the ticket for people you can trust, not vote for Donald Trump. They booed him. And I think win or lose for Donald Trump, Cruz will pay a price. He looks like a sore loser.
And quickly, Tucker, you heard the New York delegation saying endorse Trump, and then leading the boos as you got to the end of that speech. Your thoughts?
I don't think I've never seen anything like this in a convention. I think it's been many years since anything like this has happened. My first question is, how did this happen? These speeches are vetted typically at a convention by the candidate. This is Trump's convention. If you don't endorse Trump, you don't want to be with Trump, don't show up. And most Republicans, many Republicans have not.
Let me interrupt you. We were told late tonight that they had not seen the speech.
How did that does not happen at conventions. This is a long I mean, I don't think in my lifetime anyone has ever given a speech at a convention that was not vetted by the candidate. I'd be fascinated to know how that happened.
I mean, Britt, some people are saying that it was brave, that what Ted Cruz did was brave because he was faithful to the narrative he pushed well, not all along, but at least at the end, which is, I'm not in favor of this man.
That is, Megan, that is very much worth remembering. That Ted Cruz sucked up to Donald Trump for months at the beginning of this campaign. And when others were being critical of him, he was saying, oh, I like Donald. I admire Donald. I think Donald's a breath of fresh air. Then he tried to basically slipstream the Trump campaign in the belief that Trump would fade and he would inherit that constituency. It didn't work out that way. He then turned on Trump as he must have felt he had to, and he is now where he is. But
I mean, Trump,
to argue for anybody to argue that this was brave after Cruz was once endorsing him, almost endorsing him,
Trump was pretty gracious in inviting Ted Cruz.
Absolutely. And let me say, there's a line in Washington. People say, why did they take such an instant dislike to Ted Cruz? The answer is save so much time.